Former guest of the podcast, Max Allen, is with me here at the Makers Muses event as part of Melbourne Food Wine Festival. Thank you very much, Max, for stepping away for a second.
Thanks for having me.
So Max, you've been involved with the Melbourne Food Wine Festival, 25th anniversary. In previous years, what have been some of the highlight events that you can remember?
Oh, look, the first event that I was involved in was as a volunteer in 1993. First festival, long lunch on the MCG, on the hallowed turf. Over the years, in the early years of Wine Masterclass, we were lucky enough to have people like the Comte Louis Salus from Château d'Yquem, who brought wines, I think, going back to the 1960s. So this is, the world's greatest sweet wine. And there was a surcharge, as you would expect. These wines are horrifically expensive. And the surcharge was quite steep, so on top of the amount of money you've already spent to come to Masterclass, you also pay to get to Taste d'Yquem. And at the end of the session, he said, and as my gift to you, I am refunding the surcharge. So everybody got to taste these incredible wines. Moments like that, great marketing, but moments like that were just really special. I don't know, seeing some great old wines. I have to say though, and I know that I am kind of affiliated with the festival, I'm a legend of the Melbourne Food and Wine Festival this year, so I would say this, but I reckon this House of Food and Wine that we're in now has been a real boon to the festival, particularly from a wine perspective. In some years the wine maybe hasn't had enough of an outing, but this year, having Rootstock here, having this event, Makers Muses, having so many people just recognise that this space is the festival hub, has given it's just given the festival a real lift and an energy that I think you can feel in the room and the space.
So can you tell me a little bit about the Makers and Muses events and the concept and sort of what it means to you and how you, I guess, came up with this amazing sort of family tree-ish kind of thing, this star map of the people who are representing different wines here?
It's a family tree idea. It is, for the 25 years that I've been writing about wine, I've come across connections between people. So, you just file away little facts about so-and-so used to work here and then moves to a different winery, or it's like the rock and roll family tree. People join a band and then they split off and form other bands, and you can trace those connections all the way through, to some of the kind of primary influences. You also had the same thing in the Australian wine community. De Bortley in the Yarra Valley has been like a training ground for so many people like Bill Downey, who's then gone on to make wine with Pat Sullivan. So there's this lovely series of connections. What I didn't realise is in the event, in the tasting here, it's almost like a choose your own adventure. You can either just go around and taste all the Pinots, or you can go around just pick wineries at random because they're all really good, or you can actually follow that map and start at a certain point and work your way back through the connections to another point on the map.
You can see about 15 years of evolution in one afternoon.
Absolutely. Yeah. So there's people here like Best's and Yalumba who've been making wine for over 150 years. And there are people here like Pat Sullivan who's been making wine for, 5? And to have those people in the same room, you'd think, in some cases, why are they both? Well, they're both facets of the same community, the same industry, and when you put these connections together on a piece of paper, you can see, it makes perfect sense to have them there, because I can see how you can trace a line from one to the other. Although getting from Yalumba to Pat Sullivan might be a bit tricky, but I reckon we could do it.
How have you seen the Melbourne Food and Wine Festival influencing wine culture in Melbourne over the past 25 years?
I think it provides a platform for people to discuss ideas, to air innovation, to also, and this was a really important part of the festival over the last few years for me, being of a certain age and having been doing it for 25 years, I've seen a whole new generations of people in retail and restaurants coming up, and some of these people, while they're really attracted to the new, and so they should be, they perhaps aren't so aware of what's come before. So the festival's made a concerted effort to say to a new generation of wine drinkers, there is this fantastic history here in Victoria as well. Let's put it on show and be proud of it, and see how the new fits in context with the old. So that was very much a theme of last night's Winemakers Feast, which was just sensational, where we had these winemakers dragging old wines out of their cellar and bringing them to dinner. I think that's the role of the festival, is to make these connections between generations and between communities.
Since you were a guest on the podcast, you've had a bit of a change. You're now writing for the Fin Review, and I'm sure you're involved with some other new things. Can you tell me what's something that you've seen recently that's got you really excited in terms of evolution? I think last time it was after Rootstock 2 years ago, I think. And so you were talking about, exciting to see all these new young wine producers doing some different things. What's kind of the new thing that's exciting you at the moment?
I think a couple of years ago, this new generation of wine people, both in production and sommeliers and in retail, all absolutely fell head over heels in love with imports. And there was a bit of a kerfuffle when some of the older members of the wine media and trade got a bit grumpy about this, the fact that they couldn't go out to a restaurant in Melbourne or Sydney and drink Australian wine. Everything was from overseas. I think we've seen that shift, and the fact that there's so many new small producers still emerging, it's amazing, means that you don't have to put a Pinot Gris from Romania on your list anymore. If you want something a bit unusual, there's dozens of choices being produced on your doorstep. So I think there's been a shift back to Australia, which is great. It's balance. You want both. I think it's really good that, again, this new generation of drinkers have grown up expecting unbelievable diversity. Expecting that every time they go to a bar, they can drink something new and different, and they want to be challenged. And so it's really good that the local producers and trade are able to say, well, all right, I'll challenge you, but it's actually just growing down the road. I think that's a really good thing.
And as far as some of the people who are attending today, are there any in particular that you haven't caught up with in quite a while and looking forward to touching base and finding out how the vintage has been, tasting their wines?
No, I reckon I've been doing a fair bit of travelling recently, so there's quite a few people here who I saw last week or a couple of weeks ago. Nope. I'm thinking now, Eastern Peak, I just tried their new wines last week. Fazzini, I'm very familiar with them. Tasted their wines a lot. Gee, no, you caught me on the hop there. No.
Well, anyone here that you feel needs a little bit more, a lot of love, and you really encourage listeners to check out their wines. All of them.
All of them. No, I reckon a lot of the people here, people will be very familiar with. From Brown Brothers, I grew up drinking Brown Brothers wines. Well, no, obviously not. Grew up when I was old enough to drink. Through to the people like Owen Latter from Eastern Peak, and now with his own wines. I think everybody's quite... No, that makes it all sound wonderful, doesn't it? Everything's wonderful. Everything's lovely.
Well, Max, it looks like it's going to be a fantastic afternoon. There's a lot of enthusiastic people here to taste wines and find out some more great wine stories. And of course, you're a big part of that. So thank you very much for making a bit of time, and really appreciate it.
Thank you.